What is up, everybody? It's Old Sluggy coming at you. I hope y'all are doing well. So we're going to be talking watercolor, specifically in the form of watercolor pencils and mixing with a few different solvents and mediums and with watercolor itself. Okay, so here we go. This is a work in progress, and as you can see, some areas are darker than others. Also, some are a little more kind of pastel-y and faded. Others are a little scratchier and grittier like this. So you can create just all sorts of different textures. This is an experimentation kind of. So it's got a lot of different levels of vibrancy and things like that. But I wanted to just go over a few of the basics. So to start with, here's what we're using. Derwent. We got two kinds. We've got the watercolor, right? Which you can tell from the white or silver stripe there. And then we have probably my favorite of all watercolor pencils, which is the Derwent Inktense, which has got this blue label. So I try to keep those on the right and these on the left. Now, there's also Derwent Metallic. And you see the little watercolor brush there. I can't really decide how I feel about these. I want to love them because they're metallic, but I don't know if I do. But anyway, I use these the least. Then we have the amazing Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencil. Okay, so that's what we're working with there. So basically, the watercolor from Faber-Castell, and then we have Derwent in 3 flavors. The Inktense, the standard watercolor, metallic. Now here's where things get really interesting. So I've got Prismacolors here, but I haven't messed with them yet. Right here, I've got Winsor & Newton watercolors. Right here, I've got a palette, and I've got some water, and I have gum Arabic. So sometimes what I'll do, and I'll say usually what I do, is I'll lay down a color combination with, I might combine, and I'll tell you how these different ones react, and then I'll try to show you in a separate video. But you can combine them and then just use these water brushes. That's what this is the most important part right here. I try to keep some dry brushes just in case it gets oversaturated, but for the most part, water brushes. And maybe a brush to use for legit watercolor. But here's the thing. If these pencils react to water, then clearly they're also going to react to watercolor. So you can dip this. Oftentimes I'll just take this and wet it into a watercolor. Let's say I'm working on this patch right here. I might take yellow and mix all the colors together with yellow water, right? And it comes out really nice. Other times I might just use the water by itself. Other times I might you can use watercolor over the really intense ones, the Inktense, or the softer ones. You can throw in some gum Arabic here. What I've noticed that the gum Arabic does more than anything is just thicken things up. So it can be good for kind of dragging some thicker lines. White is always great for softening things up, obviously. Each of these areas has probably been worked over, anywhere from 1 to 5 times, I'd say. I'm working on this water pad series. Let's see, it's a cold press. And where's our weight? 190 grams. And it seems to be holding its shape pretty well, even with the number of passes I've done. One other thing that is really cool to do, and it's kind of the same idea as taking this or taking a brush and mixing the watercolor and using that to blend, is just to grab these, like the Ohuhu watercolor pens or the Arteza watercolor pens, any kind of watercolor pens, basically the same thing. It's just already got the color there. You don't have to mix it. So for example, I used the blue just now right through here. and also in this area, just to kind of see what it would do. And it's gonna, I would say it's a solid, it's like a nice, solid, controlled top layer probably. It's also good for getting really clean lines. I like to clean everything up once I'm done, and I'm nowhere close to done, but like right in here, I'll probably like clean that up a little. It's finding a balance, because for me, I like to do this little dashy kind of pastel-esque mixing of colors. So I want it to look, you know, kind of frayed, or like this is a good example where it's just kind of blended sloppily together, but it looks nice. But then I also like to get clean lines around the outside, like defining lines, like around here. Anyway, now let's talk about the individual pencils. The two best, in my opinion, and the only two you really need, are the Faber-Castell Albrecht Duo, which are going to give, that's what this is. I like to apply more pressure with these, but you can do lighter pressure, harder pressure, whatever you want. But it's going to give a very light color in comparison to all the others. So if you mix it just with water, which is what I did here, you can see how light it is. Now you can mix it with water plus watercolor and get something that's darker. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the Derwent Inktense, which is right through here. You know, you lay it down, and as soon as water touches it, it just explodes with color, which is really cool. It does leave a little bit of this like grainy texture to it though. And that goes for both the Inktense and the similar but less vibrant watercolor versions. And I would say for the most part, the watercolor and the metallics here work similarly. So if we had to break it into 4 categories, we'd say, you know, softest and lightest, brightest and most explosive, and then kind of in between here and in between. This is the smoothest in the sense that you're not going to get these, this kind of like choppy texture here. And there's nothing wrong with this because you can go over it later. But this just lays down smooth right off the bat with water. This lays down bold and expressive with water. And I'll do a little tutorial here in just a sec with using them. I would say when you're using the Faber-Castells, you can use light pressure, medium, or hard pressure, depending on how much you want to come through. But regardless of the pressure, you'll get kind of a smooth textured finish. Might be lighter, might be darker. With the Inktense, I actually like to go really light with the pressure, except on the outer lines. Because if I go hard on the pressure, what I find is, you know, that I'll still see the lines, because I work in circles, right? So I kind of do circles around, and I'll still see some of the circular lines underneath. I'm trying to see if there's a place where that's still showing up here. I think I've worked most of it out, but it kind of, it's just, you're going to see the lines from your circles much more so. And if you use hard pressure, if you use light pressure, then you're going to be fine. So one of my favorite combinations is to take, like, let's say I'll start with a bold color, let's say like a dark blue in the Inktense, right? And I might come around the outside, so I'll do the outline, and then I'll really soft touch, do the circles around here, and then just along that border, and then inside of that, I'll go to like a medium color, so either like this kind of a blue, or this kind of a green, or this kind of a blue, something that's not as dark as this dark blue. And I'll put more pressure on that on the inside layer. So like if this, and you know, I know this is, I need to be a little more specific, but right here, let's say is a soft, got a 1/4 of an inch there or whatever. And then I'll go in with more pressure, but a soft color. And then I usually will work in threes. So on the third part, on the inside here, or on the inside here, for example, I'll usually pick either a light, like a very light blue, like this, or a very light green. And I might do the ink tints if I want to go from the inside out and the outside in, or I might use the Faber-Castell if I want to just work from the outside in. So from like the really vibrant into the lighter, or vice versa. And once I've decided how I'm going to do that, then I decide, am I just going to use water, or am I going to use water with watercolor mix, or with watercolor and gum arabic? And from there, it's just all experimentation. And you can also use these. Just think of this, and all these things. Normally, you would just use water with these pencils, but it's really fun to use colored water. And that's what your watercolors do. That's what this does. The gum arabic just thickens it up a bit. So using colored water on watercolor pencils just kind of amplifies everything a little bit. So I'll try to show you guys this when it's done, and I will certainly do a more detailed demo. I just wanted to kind of put it out there real quick. If I were to start off, I would get a small pack of the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dewars. I'd get the Derwent ink tints, right? And I would get any kind of watercolor that you want. Don't need the gum arabic for now. And I'd get a couple of these watercolor brushes. And that's it. You can get started with that. And this is totally optional, actually. That's just, you can really do it with just the pencils and water. And once it's dry, you can come back over with more layers. All right, hope that helped. And we'll go through it in more detail. Any questions, just post them in the comments or shoot me a DM. Peace and love, everybody.